Hello there, welcome back to another World of Warships with Ungainly Titan. Well, World of Warships Legends. We're on Haven. Capture the base, standard battle, and I'm in the Arkansas. The USS Arkansas, the Tier 3 American Premium Battleship. So, battleships and World of Warships Legends. I'm still not terribly happy with World Battleship gameplay on several levels. It just lacks a certain degree. It can be real fun when it's when it works out, but a lot of the time you are very dependent on your initial choices. So that if you make the right choice at the start and it works out, things kind of work the way you expect them to go. It can work out really, really well. Otherwise, you can find yourself either isolated or just not in the correct place to just bring your guns to bear and actually dish out damage, because they're slow and you just have to make certain assumptions. Are your cruisers, are the ships with you, going to stick with you, or are they just going to run away because everything else is going to be faster and more maneuverable than you are? Are you going to run into this? Are the destroyers going to be on this side? What are you going to do about that? Do you have the opportunity to run away? And if you do, where do you go? And will there be anybody there when you get there? Now our guys are going straight at the enemy. Two cruisers, where one of them is changing his mind. He's actually going away from the enemy. But he's going in a direction which is taking him across more enemies. So, it might not work out very well. He's going away from the ones he met first, but not necessarily away from everybody at the same time. Although I suppose when you run, it doesn't matter as long as it's away. That is the great lesson from Terry Pratchett's Rincewind character. Start running before anything happens, and as long as it's away, you'll manage, because other people will be hanging around to attract the attention of whatever's going on. Now I'm turning around as well. Two reasons. One, if for the same reason the cruisers turned away, except they turned away around the eastern side of the island, which is a bad idea because they remained under fire from the ships that were surrounding them. And because the ships were surrounding them, they were on more than one direction. They couldn't effectively reduce their profile or make use of, just by being away, presenting a narrow profile like I'm doing here to the Kuma. And they also had the problem then that they were broadside to somebody. And taking broadside damage, as the Kuma just discovered, is not necessarily presenting broadside, just means that you can get spanked really hard by ships powerful enough to penetrate your armour and penetrate your citadel. And we've just done it again because he's still broadside on. And most of my turrets are at the back. So now he's turning, but the thing is, he shouldn't have stayed. He shouldn't have come after me in the first place. Because in doing so, he was isolated. See, it'd be different if there was a couple of cruisers after me, and they were all shooting at me, and they were all shooting high explosives and stuff like that, and then they could burn me down, and I couldn't really. I'd have to focus on firing them one at a time and hope that I would get them before they had wiped me out, which might happen or might not happen. I would have had to run away anyway. But by being on his own, all I need is just one decent hit now, or one or two decent shell penetrations, and it's just all over. And we get another citadel as well. And that's him out of the battle. Now, it's rather timely since it brings us even. However, we're still positionally in a weak enough spot because... Okay, I'm kind of effectively out of the battle for the moment, although the Iron Duke's within range. That other ship is in front of me, the Allied ship, I think, which is an Orion, is starting to sail around the wrong side of the island. And he's taken himself out of the fight. Now, I don't know if he have a shot on the ship into the northeast of him. So we have a battleship in the northeast isolated with two enemy ships around him. Our three cruisers and destroyer in the middle are surrounded effectively by enemy ships. So every one of those ships is presenting a broadside to somebody. The Iron Duke mostly. So the Iron Duke can take the ships that are broadsiding him, which are all cruisers, and he can just destroy them with his forward guns as he steams towards them and takes relatively little damage in return, because he's presenting a narrow profile, so he's harder to hit. He's also presenting his best armour in that direction. So if shots are going to bounce or shots are going to fail to penetrate, they're more likely to fail to penetrate to a ship that's bow tanking than one that's presenting a full broadside. Now, in my opinion, our ships should give up trying to flip the cap. They're not going to succeed. There's too many enemy ships around them. The two cruisers should be turning east and then north. The Orion should probably be turning around and turning east as well. And I think I'm okay for the moment chasing the Iron Duke, because there's nobody else out there to the west as far as I know. They've all turned around and headed back, and some of them, well, a lot of them have been sunk actually in the meanwhile, but they've also been sunk, taken out. They've taken out our ships as well. We're still ahead on points, but now because we're ahead on ships, and now we're still ahead on points, possibly because of the period where we were interrupting or taking getting capture points, because while we were getting capture points, it meant that their cap circle wasn't producing any victory points on their behalf. So that was accruing victory points to us, but the margin is not that great, and our ships are still in danger of being sunk. There's in close proximity to a destroyer, while under long range fire from a big battleship, the Iron Duke. And there's at least one other battleship down there. I have no idea where he currently is. He was last seen way off to the south and slightly to the west of my current position, but he could be anywhere by now. And the Iron Duke's gone behind the island, so I will no longer now be in a position to shoot the Iron Duke, and we lost a destroyer. No, not destroyer, cruiser. No, we still have our two cruisers. However, I'm no longer in the fight, and by the time I get down to the corner, there's a good chance the two cruisers would be dead, because there's two cruisers really. Well, actually, the second battleship's turned up, so there's now two cruisers versus two battleships. And the advantage really is on the battleship side. This again is because our two cruisers are between the two enemy battleships, so the enemy battleships I'll probably get a decent angle on one or other of the cruisers depending on what direction they're going in, and likely to get broadsides and penetrations and citadels and all that kind of good stuff. But we've lost a cruiser, we've lost both cruisers, and now at this point I think I'm better off turning around, because if I come down now it would be my battleship versus two enemy battleships, and one of them, which is a tier 4, the Iron Duke. So, better get this baby around, and better do it without striking the island. So I'm going to bring the ship to slow it down so I can make a tighter turn. She'll actually turn kind of faster when she's speeding up, but by slowing down I can bring the ship around, and it seems to be my experience anyways, you seem to bring the ships around a little bit faster. And even as we speak, the enemy Orion, the guy that was up in the northeast, has come back for another round of fighting with our guy, and he's fighting with a friendly Orion. Now the thing is that they're now ahead on points. They're not ahead on points by much, less than 30 points, but the thing is we have to chase them. So in some ways that enemy Orion is making the red Orion is making a tactical mistake. He'd be better off now that he's made contact with us, and that we're the ones behind on points, that if he actually started to run away, kite us away from the cap circle while his two buddies came into the cap circle behind us, that either catch us manoeuvring to chase after him if we did, or he'd pull us away and they'd cap while we were trying to get back, because we're in battleships and we're not going to get back in that much of a hurry. However, give me another 30 seconds or so and my guns should be within range. They're actually already within range of the enemy Orion. So I can now support my friendly Orion. And the thing is, we're both again widespread apart. He's actually giving broadside to both of us at the moment. But even if he... yes, I think friendly Orion is sufficiently far in front of him that if he's angled against the friendly Orion, he's going to be giving me a broadside. A reasonably decent broadside, one way or the other. And, well, that was a nice chunk of damage. So, if I can do that maybe one or two more times, and then throw in the friendly Orion broadside, which he did another nice similar size, maybe even bigger chunk of damage than what I just managed there, and he's damaged him again. And now he's around from the other side of the island, and in fact the two of them were in secondary gun range. And I have another broadside outgoing. And again, that is a very solid hit, probably over 5k damage. And there's not a lot left in the enemy broadside, or the enemy Orion, and I think we popped off another broadside there. He's just gone. Could have been anything. I don't know what exactly set him off the finish, whether it was our friendly Orion fired a broadside, or whether it was just the secondary guns that finally overwhelmed him. But anyway, the thing is that during the course of that engagement, which lasted about 2 minutes in game time and about 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes or so since I turned around, there's no sign of the other two ships. And there's no particular reason that the enemy Iron Duke was so far away. He was only 10 kilometers away from me, or 12 to 14 kilometers away from me when I turned around. He could easily have covered that distance. He could have probably maybe 15 kilometers tops when I shot when the last of our friendly cruisers was shot. I think he could have caught up with us in the course of the time needed for me to come back here and before this fight ended, and he could possibly have caught up with us before the fight ended. And the Kaiser with him could probably also gotten within view range, if not certainly within engagement range, in a similar time frame. Because now the thing is, we are solidly ahead, and they have to turn it around. And I think they'd have to sink more than one ship as well, because they'd have to at least sink one of us to have a chance of winning at this point. And there's no sign of them anywhere. I mean, they still haven't turned up. It's now a full minute I've been talking since the end of the fight, and there's still no sign of them. And there's no reason why the two of them couldn't have turned up more or less together, and they would have had actually multiple opportunities over the last 2 minutes where I would have been effectively on my own, because the friendly Orion would have been engaged with the enemy Orion, and then the friendly Orion was on the wrong side of an island. So they could have caught me in open water on my own. I would do damage, but I wouldn't be doing as much damage as the two of them would likely do to me in the same time frame, because the Iron Duke is a tier 4 ship, and Kaiser is a tier 3, and they're both in relatively good health. The Iron Duke is less so than the Kaiser, but the thing is that, again, the advantage of being the tier up ship, it's going to be dishing out a lot more damage than it's going to be receiving, assuming that I was in the position to shoot back at it straight away. Because the other fight was still a fight that I had to support and make sure that my allied ship won. I would say, irrespective, because I wasn't going to take on the two of them anyway, so I'd be forced to sort of run and just hope for the best and hope that I lasted long enough for the friendly Orion to dispose of the enemy Orion and come around and help me out. It's now about 5 minutes from the point that I ran away, and there's only a minute left in the game, and there's still no sign of them. And in fact, they won't turn up before the end of the game. I don't know what they're doing. In fact, it's one of those cases where I'd love to be able to see what exactly they were doing, just to figure out, if I could, what the logic was, what they were thinking. I mean, initially not coming after me made a certain degree of sense, but it would also require the cooperation of the friendly Orion that was not in contact with them. That would have made sense because they were ahead, and if they stayed ahead and stayed hidden, then we couldn't have defeated them. And if they stayed ahead, stayed hidden, and stayed together, or at least rendezvoused and made sure they were together by the time we found them, we would then be outnumbered, and again, we wouldn't overturn sort of the verdict of the game. But by allowing the friendly Orion to engage the two of us at a 1-2 disadvantage, and then by not engaging themselves subsequently, because now they're chasing the game from behind, we're the ones that are in the command and the pilot seat, so to speak, and we're the ones that have accomplished what is needed to be done in order to win the game. Don't understand it, have never understood the reason why people would prefer to keep their pixelated imaginary machine alive rather than actually go for broke and win the game. However, we came number one by experience in the Arkansas, and the surviving friendly Orion was number 3 by experience. So anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like and a share. Feel free to comment if you have not already done so. Please subscribe to the channel. I will catch you all again soon. Bye for now.